Hi, I'm Shayna.
And I'm Tracy, and we are the creators of The Pump and Dump Show. We are moms, but we were women first. And in this podcast, we explore what it's like to be a woman who also happens to be a mom.
Before we were moms, we were women. Before we were moms, we were chillin'. We were pumping and dumping. We're talking about something. This is the Pump and Dump Podcast.
Hey, breeders.
Welcome back, breeders.
Oh, man, we've got a lot happening this fall.
But it's not fall, it's still summer.
Yeah.
It's hot out.
September in Denver is
Hot, dude.
it's hot, but it's delightful because the kids are back in school. We're planning a epic tour
Of like 10,000
that
shows.
starts like next week.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, welcome back, breeders. We're gonna do a this week's episode about a little bit about self-discovery.
Oh, yeah.
Just something that
guess you're
happened to
right.
us over the summer in the middle of our big transition and our dive into this, this change in our business. We kind of dove into our own
Shit.
shit,
Yeah.
which is a good distraction.
It's a good distraction, but I'm learning in my old age that, to be an effective leader or business person or mom or wife, you really gotta start learning about yourself and like figuring out your own crap and dealing with your own issues, or you're just gonna be in this like cycle, like this like rabbit hole of dysfunction forever, and you're never going to be really that happy, So anyway, we stumbled into the Enneagram, which I think is having like a little bit of a moment right now. It's been around for a while, like a long while. Some people say that the Enneagram is like ancient, like Sufi roots, but it's kind of having a resurgence, and the Enneagram is a way to establish and understand your personality type. But I use that word hesitantly.
Loosely.
Yeah, because it's not like a type like I'm an introvert, I'm an extrovert, I'm a Myers-Briggs number.
I'm a Libra, I'm a Scorpio.
Yeah, it's a lot more fluid than that, and it's more fluid, and it's more robust.
Mhm.
Like it tells you who you are, but it also tells you who you are in times of stress, in times of strength. Who you are when you're healthy and you're doing, you're really self-aware, and who you are when you're like
a jerk.
DEFCON 5, like, might need
Mhm.
to be hospitalized. It covers all of those things. And it's a really, I don't know, I love it so much. I think it's just a really great way to identify who you are and explain who you are to yourself so you can be a better person to others.
Sure, that's a great way to look at it. We have an expert on who's going to talk to us about it. But just so you know, like this summer, I feel like because as you all know and have been listening to the podcast, like we've been in and out of the woo-woo. There was a whole chakra phase in Tracy's life. There's crystals. There's all the things for the good energy and kind of diving deep and basically diving deep in order to ascend, right? And to
Sure.
become better people. But as we deal with times of stress, like this change in our business, and also just as our kids get older, and like all the stress of keeping
being an adult,
adulting.
Oh, don't use that word.
Sorry.
We need to do another episode. Please stop saying adulting.
Oh, really?
I don't like it.
I don't think I've ever said it before.
I don't, and I'm not happy about it that you just said it. Moving on. Continue.
Moving on. It was a very the Enneagram book and test and process, especially for you and some of the other people on our team, was just a very aha moment for us. So we're really excited to share it with you guys.
Yep. So we have a great guest who teaches classes in it, and she's a mom, of course.
Yep, and she's a therapist, and her name is Nancy Goodman, and we hope you enjoy.
We got a special guest. Special guest.
Okay, today's guest is Nancy Goodman. She's a licensed clinical social worker and a therapist. She specializes in pre- and postnatal therapy and also teaches Enneagram classes with a focus on parenting to your Enneagram type. Is that about right?
Mm-hmm, that's right.
Yes. So we are just so excited to talk to you. Shay and I have kind of been diving in to the Enneagram. My husband and I have been diving into it a lot, and we want to kind of explain what it is to those of you who don't know what it is. Talk about our numbers. Is it our type or our number? What do you use?
You can use either word. Yeah, type is
Type,
usually the thing.
our type, and I think it's fascinating to use that type and then apply it to your parenting, because that really changes the why and of how you react to your
Right.
kids, I would imagine,
Right.
and how you react and how you make decisions, I suppose, as a parent.
Absolutely.
Okay, so welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be
Welcome.
here.
I know.
I didn't even know if it was Enneagram or Enneagram, so I'm really glad Nancy's here today. She told
Just
me
to
it's
clear that
it's
up.
Enneagram.
It's Enneagram.
Enneagram.
And if you haven't checked it out, like you can test online.
Right.
Yeah, we
Um,
took the righty test.
Yeah, there's a
RH.
couple tests that you can take that cost money, not a lot, but do cost money. The thing that's just so important to know about the test, though, is that they don't actually know what type you are. They will rank you in the order of however you score, but you might score differently a month later than you did.
Oh,
you know.
interesting.
But it's helpful to take the test because they'll narrow it down, and then you can
Mhm.
go read about the top 2 or 3 that you scored highest in, but you're the only one who knows what type you are ultimately.
Oh.
So the process of taking the test and then reading about the top few is a good process of self-discovery.
Yeah, because I started reading The Wisdom of the Enneagram, and that's a big book. That's kind of like you
It's a
have to take
great
it in
book.
small chunks. It's a lot.
Yes.
But then a friend, Jillian, told
Mhm.
me to take the test, and it's the what is it?
Ready,
Re-
RHETI.
RHETI at the Enneagram Institute. It was $12.
Right.
So I felt like it was a decent,
Yes.
I could handle that. And that it kind of ranked me, but I tied for 2 numbers, one of which I just didn't really
Exactly.
agree with at all.
Yeah.
But then it helped me go back and read that book with some context.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's start at the beginning. What is an Enneagram?
So, the basic theory this is my interpretation of the theory as I've learned it over the years, is that we all come into the world and every one of us who has children knows that our children come into the world unique already from the get-go, different from each other if they have siblings, but they have their little self is already something. It's not a blank slate. And so the idea is that we come into the world holding some aspect of humanity most dear. So whether that's peace or love or joy or security or, and there's 9 of them, that our ego starts to develop around the seeking or the pursuit of that one thing.
Mm.
And so if it's kind of a sad way that I think that we start in the world where our egos develop because we get into pain. So whether it's because we're hungry and we're not getting fed quickly enough, which happens to all brand new babies, or there's abuse and yelling and scary stuff happening and everything in between, we all experience pain as soon as we are born, bright lights, all of that stuff.
Being
And so
pushed out of a tiny, tight tube.
a really warm, dark, lovely place to be into this
Right.
Crazy.
cold world.
Yeah.
And so everybody has that experience, and our egos begin to develop right away in order to help us survive in those situations. So we learn how to scream to get our needs met when we're infants, and we learn how to, grab things when we're toddlers, and we just learn all these ways, and those are our little egos developing, and we can't live a life without them.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not bad, but they are limited in their perspective. So somebody who was born like Tracy, you said you were an 8.
Mm-hmm.
So someone who's born as an 8, what they hold most dear is strength. And coming into the world and not being able to control it the way that I want to creates an ego that says, I have to be strong in order to take care of myself, in order to get what I need in the world. And so then from there comes all the habits and patterns and reactivity that sort of forms the way that we engage with life. So
Interesting.
does that make sense?
Yeah, and then I imagine just how your parents raise you too.
So right. So a lot of people think that our parents have an effect on our type. Theoretically, it's our perception of our parents that creates. Okay, so let me say that again. It's not our parents that create our type. It's our type that perceives the parenting. So you can have 5 kids of 5 different types grow up with essentially the same parenting. One of them's going to say, my parents weren't safe. One of them's going to say, my parents weren't loving. One's going to say, my parents were too controlling. One's, they're all going to have a different perception based on their type.
So as parents, we're just completely fucked.
We are so screwed. Totally,
But
completely
silver
screwed.
lining, it's not our fault.
That's right. It's not our fault, and we're totally screwed. However, the thing that, like, the upside of all this, or the thing that I think is so valuable, is when we know that this is how human beings develop, we can help our kids stay connected to who they truly are. So if, say, they're born into the world as a 3, and what they hold most dear is value, feeling valuable in the world, we can help them see that they're valuable even just sitting around the house doing nothing. So that rather than praising a 3 for getting 100% on the spelling test, that's going to feed that ego part of them, which is fine. But in order to help their true self stay alive and for them to stay connected to their true self, is to praise them for just being. So that they don't feel, their ego doesn't have to get wrapped up in, I just have to perform. But I don't actually have to perform because they find me valuable no matter what.
Oh, okay.
So each of the numbers you were telling me earlier has 3 different types inside of the types. There's essentially like 27 personality types.
Right. So those are connected to our instincts. Do you want me
Okay.
to explain that?
Yeah, because I feel like if you don't know anything about Enneagrams,
Right.
let's start with, like, there's 9 main personality types.
And just so you guys can visualize this or Google it while you're listening. So the Enneagram is a circle that has, it's almost like an incomplete star in the middle of it. And each of the points is a number, and the numbers are connected. So like 9 is at the top, and there's points that are drawn to the other numbers that kind of make the star in the circle. So the circle symbolizes that they're all connected, but each individual. So that's kind of what it looks like, right?
Right.
Okay.
Spoken like a true 8.
Right.
Why?
Because you, like, dove in and researched every part. I, like, have
Oh.
looked at that thing a million times and couldn't have described it to you.
Well, it's in the book.
Well, I understand, but that's it's totally different type of person who would understand that than me. That's all.
Just very clear. 8s are very clear.
Yes.
Straight
Okay.
up. Anyway.
I'm an 8, guys.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay, so what are we talking about? Instincts.
So if you're just brand new to this and you're like, "Oh, I can take a personality test."
Right.
What is a person going to find?
So the first thing they're going to find is about their type, their core type, and it's almost like there's one Enneagram teacher that says knowing a little bit about the Enneagram is knowing way too much for your own good. That you really have to, like, learn a lot about it in order for it to be of value. Like you found, Tracy, that the more you learn about it, the more valuable it becomes. At first, it can just be like, oh, what type are you? And what type are you? And it can be just like all the other personality tests where you just put a label on yourself and kind of leave it there. So the more you learn about the Enneagram, the more you can use it as a tool to support loosening up all those habits and patterns.
Okay.
So, but to your question about the instincts, we all have 3 instincts, all human beings. And I think we have a lot more than 3, but for some reason they narrow them down to 3. We have an instinct for social belonging and connection. We have an instinct for self-preservation, like comfort and security and that. And then we have an instinct for deep connection, or they call it a sexual instinct, but it's procreation, but also just creation, I think, like intimacy and drive and intensity.
Okay.
So there's those 3 different instincts, and as individuals, we all prioritize one. So one of them is something that we're always protecting. So if you prioritize the social instinct, no matter what type you are, you're always protecting your standing in your own social world. Like you're focused on your community or your family or your work, whoever your people are. That's kind of like the main thing that you're protecting. If you're a self-preservation person, you're mostly focused on, do I have what I need like I have a friend who's a self-preservation person, and she always has this huge bag full of all the stuff she could possibly need for the day. So she's always just carrying around her little house on her back kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then the
I love that person because I always have to borrow from
Exactly.
that.
They're awesome to have around.
We just
I
went
am-
camping and I was like, who's got Tylenol?
That's right.
It wasn't me.
And I am not a self-preservation person. My husband is. So I'm like, I don't have to worry about any of it because he's always got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then sexual instinct is the third one. And that one, people who prioritize that one have their focus is on one-on-one relationships and deep connections and intensity, like the juiciness of life. So if you take any of the 9 types, you can then split them up into 3 different kinds of that type. So a self-preservation one is very different than a sexual one, is very different than a social one.
I think I'm self-preservation. Yeah, I think I am.
Are you? Do you feel like overly prepared? Is that a weird way to put that?
It's not always.
I'm
that's
not overly
always
prepared.
it.
I'm just overly concerned that I'm not prepared.
Yeah, it's a focus on
Okay.
like my health, my financial security, my physical needs, my physical comfort, self-preserving.
Yeah. I mean, I
Focus.
feel like if you saw how many cans of beans are in my pantry,
It's that kind of stuff.
it's funny because Johnny and I, after like kind of learning our types and digging into this together, like we had this conversation and I said that one of the things that I pride myself on, it's not pride isn't the right word, but I feel very content about is
Yeah.
that if I don't go to the store, I can make a full meal out of anything that's in my house at any given time.
Yeah, that's something a self-preservation
Yeah.
person would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we all have that instinct for self-preservation.
Certainly every mom does.
And moms have to but there's a lot of us moms, myself included, who are like, oh, forgot the diaper bag, oh, forgot this, oh, forgot that, and that's just kind of how we live our life.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
What are you?
I don't know.
Like, I can't tell you how many times I come home and say, I lost my credit card, and my whole family says, it'll show up. Like, nobody ever worries about it.
Oh,
'Cause
interesting.
it's just, I don't pay attention to that stuff.
Yeah.
Again, I think I'm like a mix of things because there's certainly like I'm very prepared in the sense that like I would never forget a diaper bag or, like that kind of thing. And that stuff means something to me. But then the social thing kind of,
So we tend to
Hit.
prioritize one and have a second close. Number 2 is a close second. The thing that's usually true about us is we have one that we almost totally ignore. Like for me, I'm really poor at taking care of my self-preservation needs. Just it feels weighty to me. It feels like too much energy. It feels like somebody else will have it. I'll be fine. So self-preservation is one that I just really don't pay a lot of attention to. The other 2 are different times in my life have been neck and neck.
Because then the sex one or the drive one also resonates for me too.
Mhm.
So I'm like a weird Enneagram enigma.
You're all of it.
I'm not,
You're just
but
a
I'm-
walking.
But there's so
Enneagram.
many of the types that I'm not.
Oh, okay.
I think for
Right.
sure. Like when we were testing and we were like, oh, that's definitely not you, or that's definitely not you, or that's definitely not you. I don't know.
Well, so sometimes it helps to know if you're a heart type, then you're probably a 2, 3, or 4.
Yeah.
Like if emotions are a big part of your life and relationships are a big part of your life, then you're probably a 2, 3, or 4.
Yeah. And I think after
Yeah.
reading, we definitely found that like the 3 resonated the most for me in the sense of self-worth being associated with success and needing that worthiness.
Right. So like we said, you might be that counter type. So the one that
Right.
looks least like a 3.
In my instinct type
Right.
is
That's
the opposite of 3.
Self-preservation 3 are the ones who don't. So each type has a passion or a sort of they call it a passion. I think of it as like not an obsession, but a focus or something. They call it a passion, and and it's all related to the 7 deadly sins, but they came up with 2 extra. So,
Oh, really?
So for 7s, the passion is gluttony, and for 8s, the passion is lust, and for 3s, the passion is vanity.
Oh yeah.
Aren't those fabulous? Like,
Yeah.
those-
Well, that was the other thing that I definitely resonated with me when I was reading about 3s. I was like, oh, totally. Like
Yeah.
I have this vanity. I don't know where it comes from.
yeah, it's our ego's version of trying to figure out how we're going to get what we want. So 8s will be lustful after everything, not just sex. Just have a real intensity. I like
Like
the word
everything.
intensity
She like
about
will
everything.
slap anything in the ass.
Yeah.
out of passion, like
Yes.
love and passion.
Right.
No, but it's
Intensity.
true. I mean, I remember like a long time ago, finally saying to somebody, I'm not angry. I'm just passionate.
That's right.
It's just like, I'm not,
Right.
I feel like my whole life I've just been trying to justify why I yell all the time. And it's not
Yes.
because I'm just like, I feel it from like this,
Yeah,
like
from my gut.
from my gut,
Yes.
like everything, like
That's-
literally everything.
Yes.
My mom used to tell me, she's like, you fall in love with everyone you meet. I'm like,
Mhm.
I know, I do.
Yeah. It's passion, lust, intensity, yeah, drive. So that's for 8s, and for 3s, vanity is the passion. And so self-preservation 3s don't want to look vain, don't want to come across as vain. So that social 7s is the counter type. Social 7s are the ones who are more focused on everyone else's. So for 7s, the thing
You're a
they hold
7.
most dear is joy and freedom.
Mm.
So most 7s are focused on their own joy and freedom. Social 7s are focused on everybody else's joy, wanting to. And I used to say that as a mom. I feel like I spend my entire life facilitating everybody else's joy.
Oh, interesting.
Oh.
And because
Sure.
that's what's most important to me, is to make sure that not everybody's okay necessarily, but that everybody's happy.
Oh.
And not
And I
happy-
try to make sure everyone's safe
Yes,
and protected. And protected.
right.
And what do you do?
I don't know. What do I do?
So what 3s sometimes do when what 3s sometimes do when in mothering is want to make sure everybody looks successful or is successful.
Just an asshole.
We
Oh.
all. I mean, that's
There's
the
negative
thing,
and
like,
positive, right?
Yeah.
But I think
I think that's true though.
For sure, it's more like I'm a motivator. That's what
Yes,
I was going to say
yes.
before you said that. Like, I feel like for other people in my life, it's like
ambition.
when we were doing
yeah.
these tests with you and me and Kate, it made me realize how much I actually like want to help people solve problems, and how I do hold my relationships are so important to me. And I was trying to like figure out how that works with a 3, but ultimately, like in my relationships, I'll come up with 5 different ideas of how someone could possibly make it better. You know, like I want everybody
better,
to be
yeah, their best.
their best and happy,
Yes.
and like to motivate in that way. It's
Yeah.
just kind of an instinctual part of my relationships, I guess.
Yeah. So it's a gift. I mean, I bring this desire for everyone to be happy and to
Mhm.
experience joy. You bring a ability and desire to motivate people to do their best. You bring a desire, or you bring the protective energy. So yeah, we can look at the dark side and the light side of all of it.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
the good thing about the Enneagram, right? Because I think and correct me if I'm wrong, but like what you connected so deeply with, and maybe this is being an 8 too, is that there are things that you had to surface that I think 8's like that you, and this is what we talked about with Kristen the other day, like it was like finally you saw it on paper in front of you and it all made sense.
Mm-hmm.
There were things that like negative and positive that were surfaced that just like had a descriptive definition,
Yeah.
and then it clicked and it was like something says everything I'm feeling.
Yeah, this is who I am. And I'm
Yeah.
trying. And I think the other thing that it's like this perfect marriage of psychological like analysis and spirituality.
Yes.
So that it's not like, oh, you're an extrovert and that's the end of the
And
story.
period.
Or
Yeah,
astrology,
right.
where it's like all Libras are
yeah,
balance.
like it's all of
Exactly,
it. It's
it's
like
both.
it's both. And so there's this pragmatic side, which my 8ness loves, like a
Right.
clinical description of why I'm a crazy person, but also then this beautiful place for like personal growth and like,
Yes.
ascending to a higher being and
Right.
appreciating God or the universe or whatever you want to call it, and merging those two together that I've never read before anywhere else.
Right. So there's like for 8s, there's the ego version of strength, or you could just say power and control. And then there's the spiritual version of strength, which is the combination of being strong and tender at the same time. So having strength and competence combined with vulnerability is that spiritual experience of strength, which is scary to like let go of the power and control in order
Terrifying.
to get that.
Sure.
But that's the like path.
And is that the healthy? Because explain to us, there's like a healthy and an unhealthy for every type.
Yeah, well,
correct?
there's gradations of. I mean, we can go from healthy to unhealthy in 2 minutes
Mhm.
in just our, like if we get off kilter or something.
Oh, okay.
but like for threes, there's the ego version of value is I have to be successful, I have to be the best, everyone has to think I'm fabulous. But the
This is quite an embarrassing podcast, by the way, for me.
but the spiritual version of value is that I have inherent value just because I am, and all I have to do is be my authentic self in the world, and I am inherently valuable. I don't have to prove anything. I don't have to perform. I don't have to. There's no more pressure. It's just right. And so it's scary to stop performing in order to trust that that's true. But that's where the freedom comes from, or the expansion.
This is a total
comes
metaphor
from.
for our work life right now.
Seriously. But that's a big, I mean, it's the same. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's the same. It's vulnerability, right? You know, like for me, it's to be able to be vulnerable and to admit my feelings of weakness, which are the things that make me put up a guard.
Right.
And for a 3, it's admitting that you're just valuable. You don't have to prove that you're going to be the best at this or that you're going to do this perfectly. Like you just have to just trust that everyone just loves you for who you are, which is like that's very vulnerable, right?
Right. It's all so vulnerability and authenticity tend to be the words that we can use to describe the path. Like we're moving toward vulnerability and we're moving toward authenticity for all the types.
So Johnny, your husband, did this too, and you guys felt like it really, really helped you connect. So this, I don't know if we would call it a technique or this theory of
Right.
Enneagrams. We discussed a little bit how it can help you in parenting. How can it help you in partnerships? Like not only marriages or relationships that are romantic, but like work relationships. Like, is this what you help people with by kind of finding out other people's types and how they interact?
Yeah. So there's more to say about the parenting part if you want.
No,
about
absolutely.
that. But the couples, like the work that I do when I work with couples, just me and the two of them, is to help them understand the motivations that their partner has. So there's not just about the behavior, because the behavior can be maddening. Like if you're with somebody if you're with an 8 who's always controlling, or you're with a 7 who never wants to sit still, or you're with a 3 who's like busy all the time, you're just going to be irritated at that behavior. Like, how come you won't sit still and talk to me? Or how come you're so controlling? Just like relax and let people do their thing.
Never.
Right?
Just jokes.
So looking at behavior is really distracting and can keep people stuck in like, why don't you do it different? But if you look at the motivation, like a 3 wants to feel valuable. So how can the two of you shift this conversation so that it's focused on the inherent value rather than so that she can like sit down and relax and just be, because she feels valuable in your marriage because you're speaking to that in other ways.
Right.
Did you follow that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think the other 2 things I learned is that, you know, I think it's easy to read the Enneagram and then just start thinking about other people and like, oh, well, then they're a 5 or they're a 4.
Yeah.
And well, that sums up why I'm irritated with them, like you
Right.
said. And
Isn't that like the curse of death according to the Enneagram?
well,
like,
yeah,
we're not
but it's
supposed to do
a
that?
big
Yes,
it's a big
don't do
lesson
that.
to learn because then it's just you're just projecting onto other people and you're not working on yourself.
Exactly. Right.
And so to just let that live out there, but then just to say, well, why am I deciding that I need to think about other people when I'm not thinking about myself, which goes back to your motivation. You know,
Right.
mine would be control.
Right.
And so like when my husband, the other thing I read recently was that the Enneagram doesn't put you in a box, which is what your husband, he's like, I don't want to be labeled. Like, I don't want to label. I don't want to be a number, but it's not putting you in a box.
There's one particular type that always says that.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, tell me, because I haven't really figured out.
No, I
No,
won't
you
tell
can't.
you.
He's
I'll
got to figure
tell
out
you later.
himself.
This is the whole
See,
point
that's
of
the whole
this.
point. But it doesn't put you in a box. It shows you the box you're in and how to get out of it, which is like such an awesome
That's exactly right.
metaphor.
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
So it's not that it's I feel like a lot of personality tests do that. It's not
Right.
saying, well, you're in this bucket for the rest of your life. It's saying, here's the box that you're in, and I'm going to give you tools now. You're going to learn enough about yourself.
To loosen up all those walls.
Yeah, and to ascend out of the box,
Right.
which is what we all really want at the end of the day.
And I think of it less as getting out of the box completely, because I think that gives us the message that our personality is bad and we should stop being it. It's more that it just loosens up the walls and gives us a lot more space to be a lot more responsive to life instead of so reactive all the time. Like if I have these, I mean, it's that old cliche, if all you have is a hammer, everything's a nail. But if you loosen up the walls of the box, now we're going to put these two metaphors together. If you loosen up the walls of the box, then you have a lot more access to lots of different ways of responding to life.
And I love the, go ahead.
No, go ahead, because that was
Well,
about that.
I love the idea of being responsive rather than being reactive.
Well, gosh, I mean, how many times have people learned that lesson, right?
Well, I mean, I think
Just
that's
in email culture alone.
sure. But I
Right.
think
Right.
like, and then to bring this to parenting, like, how can you be responsive to your kids rather than reactive?
Reactive.
Like, crap, I don't know that I've ever done that. You know?
Well, and so that was what I was going to say actually was if we're not supposed to type other people, I've been curious and wanted to ask you, like, can we type our kids?
Yeah, me too. I've been
Right.
dying to know.
So no, do not type your children, but there's a lot of buts to that. So one of them is when they're like prepubescent even, but certainly adolescent, they can type themselves. So if they're interested, and then that helps them get
like
some
what
clarity.
age? Like 10, 11 or?
Yeah, 11, 12,
Okay.
sure. I mean, different. My kids, because they grew up with me, I think they figured out their types when they were like 7 and 9, but
Okay.
wouldn't necessarily recommend that because they're still so changing and growing.
Right.
But the cool thing that we can do as parents, even when they're really little, is just pay attention to the energy. If you know enough about the Enneagram and you know the general sense of all 9 types, pay attention to the energy that they're giving you at any developmental stage and parent to that. So all toddlers look like 7s or 8s or 6s, or, you know, there's a number of different types that toddlers could look like just developmentally. So you can just parent to that. Like if they're trying to beat everything up because they seem to want power and control, they may not be 8s. They may just be toddlers, but you can help them.
That's the best quote.
They may just be toddlers. But you can help them with that struggle that they're having between power and control versus strength and vulnerability, right? So you can, I mean, depends on what they're doing as toddlers, but you can help them know that it's okay for them to sit in your lap and get comfort if they're wanting to like rip stuff apart.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? They can come.
I mean, I'm struggling right now with my 7-year-old who is so sensitive to anything uncomfortable physically. Like he got a splinter when we were camping, and you would have thought we would have had to go get his leg cut off, and he wouldn't let us pull it. And he just, I mean, it was just the biggest deal for like the longest time. And then yesterday we dealt with it at the dentist office, where you know how it's kind of uncomfortable to get the x-ray. He did one side, cried, refused to do the other side, saying things like, it hurts so bad, it hurts so bad. And I know that this is just his personality, right? Like he's actually a happy kid who doesn't have any like clinical sensitivity issues. Maybe this is a clinical sensitivity. I have no idea. But I'm like, how can I somehow, because like I've tried everything. I've tried holding him down and taking the goddamn splinter out, and I've tried comforting him and being maternal and letting him be a sensitive kid. I mean, and I'm just like, how do you, would knowing his personality type help me through this 7-year-old just being a pussy?
So yes, but the question that I always ask parents, because you don't know, he's too young, we don't know. The question I ask parents is, why does it bother you?
Which part?
Why does it bother you that he's so sensitive? So
So
that brings us around as parents to our own type and our own blind spots and our own filters.
right.
Like, is there?
Well, because he has to get his x-ray done, you know, like they're simple. It doesn't bother me that he's sensitive in general, but like when there's things like a splinter in his foot, like let's get it out. It's not going to hurt. It's going to take 2 seconds.
Right.
But that's on me.
That's you. That's your perspective. Is like, let's get this done. What's your problem? So is there a way for you to relax that and say, well, apparently we're not going to just get this done because there is a problem in his world. So what would that look like?
Yeah, but
for
then
you
he's just screaming for hours and ruining everyone's day. And like,
I agree. It's like,
you know,
come on,
like,
man.
you know, at what point do you just say, enough is enough. You got to like face the problem.
Right. You can do that. It's just, are you doing it because you're pissed off and need to manage the situation? Or are you doing that because that's what's like appropriate at the or, you know, like it's a splinter. I know I'm the grown up. I know if I get it out, we're going to be done with this in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do it. But I'm not going to do it because I'm pissed off at him or because I'm irritated or I'm frustrated or I'm powerless or all those things that we get so wrapped up in.
I literally started flicking his arm and being like, this will hurt worse. And like, because that's how you parent, right?
Well, I mean,
show him perspective.
I mean, I was trying, like, I try everything with that kid. He's so darn stubborn.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. I mean, and that's a good lesson for Chris too, who has much more, you know, frustration in that sense, because we're just, you know, it's 7 years of this kid. Like, come on, man.
Right.
Well, let's take extreme medical duress out of the equation and like
extreme splitter.
But like my daughter's at a new school and she's having trouble making friends, as every new kid does, but she's also very shy.
Yeah.
And the protector in me wants to gouge my eyes out right now and run to the school and like connect her with
everybody's ass.
No, I'm not that angry. I'm working on that part.
Which kid are you going to cut?
Maybe there's one. But like more like, hey everyone, let's all, you know, like let's play together. Look at, you know, Evie, everyone over here, you know, and and my heart is breaking. And I don't think she's that sad. You know, but like what I feel like I'm projecting what I want her to do. And how do I just allow her, like she has tendencies to be very shy and be a little bit negative about the world. Like, oh, well, they're not going to like me, or, oh, there's a leader that's going to be mad at me and won't let me join the group. And I'm like, where are you getting these?
Yeah.
You know, so I try to talk her out of it, but is it, you know, do I just let her be and just let her figure her shit out, or do I encourage her to get out of her shell so that she talks to people? Right. It doesn't seem like she's being mean.
We want our kids to figure out how to do it. And so we just tell them how to do it. Like if you would just go say this to that kid, or just don't worry about it, or just stop, you know, just stop screaming and we'll get the splinter out. What they need from us is for us to say, what's happening for you? Like, why is this hard for you?
Oh, gosh. That'd be interesting if Bo would answer that.
Because I remember.
Because it hurts so bad.
I remember when my son was probably like 5 or 6 years old, something like that, and he had left his crap out all over the house again, like he always did, and we were. I mean, he still does. He's 19, and he still is the same issue he's had his whole life, and so we've been trying everything to get him to clean up his stuff. And so one of these times I did the thing where you put it all away and it goes in the closet and, you know, it gets removed for however long. And I said, oh, you know, you didn't clean up your stuff, so it's all put away and now you don't have it to play with. Aren't you sad? And he looks at me, he goes, no, but you are. And I was like,
oh,
okay.
God, you know what?
Burn.
It's all like he didn't care. He did not care. He still does not care.
Yeah.
So me trying to get him to care was a complete waste of time.
Oh, wow.
So instead, I'm like, well, you clean up your stuff or it goes away. And then I have control because my house is, you know, relatively picked up because I've chosen to put it away. But I'm not going to change who he is.
It's so fast. And a word that you said earlier was just really resonated, where you were talking about projecting, right? Like, I feel like as our kids have gotten, you know, past toddlerhood and into like becoming like little humans with personalities and social issues and things like that, it became for me like personally more difficult to parent because I found myself projecting based on my own experiences, either as a child or as an adult, and my own personality type.
Exactly.
And then I also found I've been finding that once I have like really distinct memories from a certain age that my kids are, like once I was able to be like, I remember what I was at this age, it started to be like really painful. Like things have started to come up in a way that like the survival mode in the early years of parenting didn't, because I was so in just like keeping them fed and happy and sleeping and all the things. And so then like as they develop their little personalities and we are forced to look at our own and our parenting becomes actually influential, more influential. I'm like, it's been really like traumatic for me as a person who feels pretty well adjusted, like, you know, anyone who goes to 4 years of acting school has kind of dealt with all of your emotions, like, and, traumatic incidences of my childhood. But like, okay, here's my daughter at 8 and what was I like at 8?
Right.
And I've started, I notice when I'm projecting social anxiety or, just fear that she's going to have any sort of an experience that was similar to me.
But that's like a 3 thing, right? Isn't that what you're saying? Like that's
That's
the
the-
value. And
Yeah, I mean that the specific thing that you remember from your childhood that is getting woken up again because you're watching your own kid go through it. Those things are specific to our own experiences, but I think all parents, moms and dads, we relive that stuff as our kids go through it. Like especially men with their sons and women with their daughters. That happens
Yeah.
a lot, but there's like people who've had really big trauma at a certain age. When their kid gets to that age, it gets all
oh,
activated.
interesting.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've been feeling like it started like right around 7, just
Yeah.
mainly just seeing how happy my kids are.
Mm-hmm.
And look, I have great parents. I'm very lucky. I, didn't grow up for want. They're lovely people. We're very close now. But when I look at how happy and innocent they are at this age, 7 and 8, all of a sudden, it's like when they were 2 and 3, I wasn't thinking about what I was like at 2 and 3,
Right, right.
It's so different now. And it's like the things that I say and do and my personality and the things that I'm ashamed of, like losing my temper so easily or working till 8 p.m. last night. And like, if they interrupted me being like, what,
Right.
like, how is that a way to react to your kid?
Right.
But here I am just trying to do my best too. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so much harder. And they always say that, like all the moms at the show who have older kids are like, well, it's totally physically hard now when they're so little, but wait till it gets to be like so mentally hard. And you're like,
Sure.
oh God.
Mentally and emotionally hard too.
Yeah. So that's why the Enneagram and things like where you can really take a look at yourself.
Right. It slows us down.
Yes. Yes.
Why? So
if I'm noticing, like I like to use the word red flags a lot because the things that catch my attention. So if I know my patterns and habits, like if I can deal with whining or I can deal with complaining or negativity from my kids for all of like a minute. I'm really good a starter. I'm a really good starter at everything. So I'm a really good starter. If there's an issue, I'm right there. But if the issue doesn't get resolved really quickly and it starts to drain me and get heavy and like, oh my God, are you kidding me? How long are we going to have to do this? That's when I start to react and start to like, try and get them to be different somehow or get myself out of the situation. Knowing that about myself, as soon as I see something starting to go south with a kid, I can say like, okay, Nance, like muster it up here, pull on your big girl panties and deal with this and stay with it until it ends. Stay with it all the way through and it
Don't
slows me
retreat.
down. Don't retreat. Don't try to like mask it or band-aid it and make it go away. Just stay with it until it ends because that's better.
And that's because you know how you react to things.
Right.
because you're a 7.
Right. And
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's a common 7 thing. And because I know I'm a 7, I've learned that and I relate to that. Not all 7s would relate to that necessarily, but I like the cool thing about knowing your Enneagram type isn't because it tells you who you are, but it narrows the field of possible ways that you might react to the world. But I'm not like all 7s and all 7s aren't like me.
Right.
But I've learned that when I read stuff like that, I'm like, oh, I see that in my relationship with my kids or my relationship with this person or that person. So now that I know that about myself, I can pay attention and watch for that. If I don't catch it before, I can at least catch it afterwards.
Right.
And like go clean it up.
Well, that's so interesting because like we all typed ourselves in our work team. And we've had meetings recently where like we've reflected post meeting, like I realized that I reacted that way because this is what I learned about myself reading about my Enneagram.
Uh-huh.
And so, or how to approach each other, knowing what they think they are. So I guess less typing each other, but knowing that a person on our team is a 6. And if we approach an issue in a certain way, it's never going to turn out good in that particular way. So you have to consciously think about how you interact with each
if you
other.
approach it in the way you want, not necessarily in the way that's best for the person that you're giving the information to.
Right.
Which is like it's like a slight shift because
Right.
it puts the responsibility. It's funny because it's like you're not supposed to type, but then you're supposed to say,
Be
all right,
aware
well,
of
I know
type.
Shane is a 3, so I need to relay this information, especially in times of like stress or like a
Yeah.
hard conversation. I need to relay it to you in a loving way that you're going to receive it, not in
Right.
the way that I want to say it, like
Which is just
intrinsically,
straight out.
which
Right.
is just straight out laid on the table
Right.
and just, and then just leave it for someone to just writhe around in.
Right.
I have to think about the other person.
Right.
So, which is valuable because then because I do know her type, I have to say it. Also, but that also being said, I also know that I'm learning how people react to 8s
Mm-hmm.
and how I do just generally say information. So I have to kind of soften that
Right.
to get along with people.
It's true. I knew an 8 who was CEO of a corporation. He said, sometimes I leave meetings and I'm all excited because we just got all this stuff done. And I look behind me and there's like carcasses everywhere.
Yeah.
Like everyone just got bulldozed over and I didn't even know what I did but they're all in tears.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
So,
And then like I would just be sitting at that meeting, like making a list of all the things that I've done to write a long email explaining all of the things that I've done of
Mhm.
value
right.
because
That
Yeah.
I need to like,
Yeah.
but I am doing this and this and this and this
Uh-huh.
and this.
Right.
Don't you see it? It's true.
I
It's
mean-
true. That is very you. I think you're a 3.
Well, no, that's what I said. I mean, I absolutely feel, and it's funny because another person on our team is a 3, but we're very different personalities.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So that's funny to say. We're very we're
Same
the
personality,
Enneagram. Yeah, we're the same
different
Enneagram type, but
personalities.
we're very different. I mean,
What
like,
is that? Is that because that's
There's
just
so
'cause all the
many parts of
different-
it. Yeah,
yeah.
there's the instincts, there's there's the levels of health, there's the sometimes we take on the qualities of a number in one direction of all those lines, and sometimes we take on the qualities of a number in the other direction. Like it, yeah.
and that's what
there's-
the wings are, right? Like
and
the
the
ones
wings
that are
are-
next to it.
yeah, and then the wings are different even still because there's all the numbers are next to each other. So a 7 has either a 6 or an 8 wing, and an 8 has either a 9 or a 7 wing, and 3 has a 2 or 4 wing. And those wings are pretty fluid, and so sometimes in our life we're heavier in one direction or the other.
They are fluid. Well, I'm gonna call out Kalani because she's a 3, but she put a post on Band of Mothers talking recently that was she's just the loveliest human.
She's our digital marketing
Yeah.
woman.
And she's got 2 littles and she works from home like we all do with 2 tinies running around.
Mhm.
And she did this post on Band of Mothers saying how she just doesn't feel like she's a very good mom and that she's not really cut out for it. She doesn't feel necessarily maternal, that she's just, she's got so much work to do and it preoccupies her. And she feels like she doesn't necessarily just want to be sitting on the floor playing Legos with her kids. And I was, that is a very 3 thing to say. She's so
Totally.
hard on herself because she
Mhm.
measures everything in terms of accomplishment.
Right.
And what she doesn't realize is just worrying about whether or not she's a good mom is
Mhm.
already
Yeah.
setting her apart. Like that's the core of love is there.
Mhm.
Well, it was
She just has to quantify it in terms of accomplishment.
Mhm.
well, like Tracy just sent us this meme that was all these different. It was Enneagrams in the world of goats. So it was like for each type, like something was happening to the goat. So for a type 3, it was like the goat was mailing itself back to the like manufacturer.
because it wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
Aw.
And the eight was like a baby goat that was just jumping around, and it said 8's trying to avoid their X thing that they're vulnerable about, and the
Oh,
goat was
yeah,
just
yeah,
like
yeah.
going
It was, like,
crazy.
running, like,
I was
running.
dying laughing.
Yeah.
It's so true. We'll post
Very
that. It's
funny.
really funny. So what else can we do as parents? And we can't type our kids, which is incredibly frustrating.
It is frustrating, but we can parent to the energy of the type. So whatever. So if you're seeing a kid who's like nervous about everything, they may or may not be a 6, but they've got that anxiety energy going.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
You can connect them to their internal sense of knowing.
Gotcha.
Whether they're a 6 or not, we will let them figure that out. But if they're struggling with anxiety and like not knowing the right thing or not knowing how they're supposed to be, then connecting them with their internal sense of knowing keeps them connected to their true self, regardless of what type they are.
Gotcha. And if you have a kid who is, what's another thing that we all struggle with? A kid who's just
George is a pleaser.
Yeah. So so that's 2 energy. He may or may not be a 2. Like, how old is he?
Oh, Georgia, she's 8.
Yeah. So she may or may not be a 2, but you can help her take care of herself first before she takes care of other people, and that connects her, keeps her connected to her true self. I'm simplifying, but that's like one thing is like, you're trying to take care of everybody else. How do you feel? What do you need? How, what's happening for you instead of what's happening for them all the time.
And if your kid's like checking out at school or just feeling like they're just like shutting down, like what's that?
Well, that might be the techer or the kid. That might be, who knows what
Change
that's
schools.
about. Yeah, change schools.
I had another question about, what was I just going to, let me think about my question. I forgot.
Marriage.
Wow, gosh. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Marriage.
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 I mean, you guys said it was like going to marriage counseling, doing
It was.
doing
It really
the
was.
Enneagrams for yourselves. And again, it's hard because to your point, you're not supposed to really focus on the other person's type. But knowing what your partner's type is helpful.
It's helpful because it usually builds compassion. If you understand the motivation, like there's the behavior that's
compassion
irritating.
is the exact word that I think we like landed on. Yes.
It allows us to understand that you see the world so differently than I do. And it's not better or worse or right or wrong. You just see it really
It's definitely
differently.
better. Whatever I see is better.
Well,
kidding.
because you're a 3, so yours is better. Yours is actually the best. But
Well, and it was, I think, but it was the mutual understanding of our own types. I'm an 8, my husband's a 9.
Right.
And we were just talking, and we felt so secure in admitting our vulnerabilities and our faults, like with relation to that type. So you had like a base
validation.
There's some
right.
validation. And we came back to this, like, old, like, issue that happened early on in our marriage. And like why I acted one way and he acted the complete other. And then knowing our types, we were both like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and it was like we just looked
So you're
at each
not
other.
an asshole.
No, exactly.
It's you're a 9. I get it.
That's why you had to clean up every day when you came home from work and potter around and, slam the cupboard doors and drive me nuts.
Right.
Because you had to like numb yourself because that was a really weird time in our careers and our life. And he was kind of miserable.
Yeah.
And I probably wasn't being at all sympathetic.
Right.
Because I was like, just do it, And we literally did with that exact thing. We were like, we just stood across from each other and we were like, oh,
it's amazing.
And it's amazing. It was like such a gift.
Right.
And now we just have these talks and it's like, oh, he sees, and back to the protection thing, I had this moment and I finally told him how when I was breastfeeding and I was struggling to breastfeed, I was always terrified that I was going to run out of milk because I never had any milk. And I remember going to the grocery store and I was kind of like a little bit bottle feeding and then formula feeding, because I just didn't have enough breast milk. And I remember going to the grocery store and I had forgotten a bottle and I was with my daughter. And I remember exactly where it was. I pulled into the parking lot and I thought to myself, if the world ended or my car broke down or something bad happened, I wouldn't have anything to feed my kid. And I almost was like gripped with panic. And from that moment on, I was like a different person because it struck me that I couldn't protect her and I was powerless to make a change, which is like my thing that makes me crazy if I can't just fix a problem.
Right.
And I've never been the same since. And I explained it to him and he was just like, that explains so much.
Right.
That explains why you shop the way you do, why you cook the way you
explains the
do.
beans in the cabinet.
It explains the beans in the cabinet because I just am It's why I try to make our house. We always joke that I make it a compound.
Yeah.
But it's like, if I can just have everything here to fix everyone, I can go to sleep at night.
Yeah.
So tell us if somebody has listened to this podcast and they are interested in starting to explore the Enneagram process and finding out their type and possibly their partners and of course not finding out their kids, but maybe finding out their kids.
How to be a better parent.
How to be a better parent. Where is the first place you would recommend a newbie
So
got-
the two websites that I recommend are the two like massive schools of teaching the Enneagram. One of them is EnneagramInstitute.com and the other one is EnneagramWorldwide.com or dot something.
Okay.
So those two are, one of them is the people who wrote a lot of those books, like the one you have. And then the other one is the narrative tradition where they teach I love the way that they teach, because they teach, if you go to like live workshops, they have a panel of people of whatever type they're talking about. And so you learn from the actual people what it's like to be
Oh,
a 2 or a 4 or
that's
7.
interesting.
I love that.
Not
Yeah.
goats. Do they have goats? Goat
Sometimes,
examples?
sometimes they have goats on the panel.
I only want goat examples.
I mean,
Okay. And you practice here in Denver.
Right, Lakewood, yep.
Okay. In Lakewood. And your website
Is a parent connection. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. And you not only do Enneagram type therapy, but you do how do you call it?
EMDR, yeah,
EMDR,
that's
I
for
wanted to call it-
trauma.
right.
Yeah.
what's EMDR?
It's to process trauma. of
Oh,
all kinds,
wow.
Yeah.
For kids or for parents?
I only work with adults. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Got
Processing trauma. Okay.
But kids use EMDR. They use EMDR with kids as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
Awesome.
good stuff.
Well, we are so grateful that you could come on here and explain to us a little bit more about ourselves.
I know.
But and to learn about you, type 7. But this, we've been kind of obsessed with the Enneagram process for a while now, so it was nice to have some clarity
Yeah, good.
on how exactly we use that information.
And
Good.
it's nice. It's like kind of like yoga. Like I feel like it's something that I'm just gonna be able to study my whole life.
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
always just learn from.
Yes.
Or ballet or whatever. Why are you looking at me like that?
What did I
I don't know. Give me side eye.
I did?
Yeah.
This is I don't hide and
Because she's
my face.
sitting sideways to you. I think
That's
is-
why there was nothing happening there.
All right, Nancy, you have to be here while we're working together.
I know. Yes. Can you stay for the day?
Yeah, like everyone relax. There was no side eye.
There's
there.
no side eye.
Sorry. Okay.
Well, it's funny too because so Tracy and I have known each other since 8th grade,
Yes.
and like all that you're just like talking about how controlling you are, but that's not. I don't ever feel like you're particularly controlling.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
I mean, I feel like you are a big energy, and you have, like you said, like that passion, and you definitely yell a lot, but it's not. I mean, we wouldn't be good partners.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I mean, I really try to shove that part down. I mean, I've known that about myself for a long time, and I really try to like physically choke it down. It's probably not
That
healthy.
sounds healthy.
that sounds really healthy, Trace.
Well, I don't want to control people. I mean, no one should be controlled.
Sure.
Right.
I
So-
mean, yeah, and they should probably, it's like healthy and unhealthy. They should just say times of stress and times of
They
no
say
stress.
that.
Yeah.
They do say that.
They
Oh.
do say that too.
Well, because
You
that's
obviously
how,
haven't read the book.
my reading comprehension is very low. But yeah, so it obviously our personalities and things come out when
Yes,
in
a lot
different, and we
worse
get
in
to see
stress.
each other's best and worst constantly. But
Right. And I think your vanity, if that's a 3 thing, is like also your vulnerability, which is what makes you so awesome. Like I don't
Aw.
think that you're the opposite of me. You don't necessarily have like a
filter.
You say I do or I don't have a filter.
No, I don't have a
Neither-
filter.
I don't
have
think either one of
I
us
don't
have
think
filters.
either of us, except that you can hide a face and I can't.
That's true.
Did
That's
we-
true.
Did we already talk about on this podcast about auditions when
Oh God,
Tracy
no.
had to we had women auditioning to play our roles as we expand the
Uh-huh.
show, and like people would leave and Tracy would be like, "You can't make that face," and I was like, "I wasn't making a face. I wasn't making a face. I
Just
don't."
the fear and
Oh.
terror and concern and she's already thinking ahead to the future and she's analyzing every aspect of it
and
and
it's
it's
written all
all
over her face.
over her
I have
face and these
no-
poor women are leaving thinking this girl
She hates,
hates
me.
me.
It's not.
It's not
so
even about them.
conscious
It's
at
about you.
all.
It's your shit.
Yeah. Yeah,
So that was
I have
real
no
funny.
ability.
You have no poker face, which is
No.
funny because you really like to play poker.
I was just gonna say I'm a very good poker player, except Chris always knows when I have a good hand.
I mean, sure.
no matter how much I
You're
try.
real easy to read.
Well, there we are.
But that's again, that's like part of your awesomeness.
Well, appreciate that. It's gonna be a good work day. We just had
Oh,
therapy.
yeah, you just had therapy. You're
I
good.
know.
I know. We'll be calling you tomorrow,
Right.
actually, Nancy. All right, Nancy Goodman, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. This was fun.
We are on tour.
We're on
tour.
We got a tour
We're on
update.
tour.
Wow.
Well, that was a delightful therapy session.
It was definitely a Shane and Tracy therapy session. I feel
love
very
podcasting.
vulnerable. I feel explained.
Do you? You do?
I feel
Are you leaning into your threeness more?
I think I've been leaning into the threeness. I didn't understand why there were so many things, and maybe it's just because I've read one book about it in the three that I didn't feel like I identified with. And so I was like, how can I truly be a three when you identify with so much of your eights?
Yeah, and to your credit, I've read about the threes, and there's a lot that I'm like,
Agree. I mean, I am like a wear your heart on your sleeve
Yeah.
person. Threes generally aren't. But then Nancy explained that there's all these different facets to
Mhm.
all the different personalities. So it's certainly helpful because I think there's a very, very strong component of three for sure. These,
that,
you know what
for
I mean?
sure, Z's guys.
For sure. These.
For sure, Z's. Yeah, that's true. And you are, and I think this, you're right. Like you've read one book. I just finished a second one called The Road Back to You that was really good.
Oh, okay.
And there's a whole nother school of thought. Like I don't even know about this worldwide Enneagram, whatever she called it. What was it? Enneagram Worldwide. I've never even gone to that website.
Yeah.
So obviously I'll have read all of that by tonight.
I just watch goat memes and feel like I
that,
understand
those goat
things.
memes, we're gonna have to post it. Those goat memes were everything.
They're everything.
And then there's Helen Palmer, who I know is like she's like a big expert in the world. So I think the more you read, that's what I like about it. I feel like we can just learn more.
Yeah, no,
But that was
it's
awesome.
definitely interesting. And Nancy is a wealth of knowledge. And if you live in the Denver area, and I mean, I honestly could have just started talking about all my parenting troubles and felt like I had some
she's
sort
like
of an
so
answer.
sweet. I know. She's just one of those. That's why she's there. Like you just want to puke out every last detail.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I throw her a hundy, could she just stay here and work with us and just mediate?
If only we had time today.
I know. But it does. I mean, I've been so into learning about myself, and I think, not projecting, but like, using it in my marriage, that I haven't really thought a lot about parenting with my type. So that's going to give me another
that's a
layer to
new-
think about.
It's a new layer for sure.
She thought I'm going to start being responsive and not reactive. That was my big takeaway.
Yeah, for sure. That's good advice in general.
Sure.
You guys, the Los Angeles-based West Coast cast is
In
currently
rehearse.
in rehearsals.
It's happening.
Jill Bartlett, Amy Albert,
Albert.
they are rocking it, and we are so excited to see what
We're
they do with the
just
show.
Days away from starting the tour too.
Yeah,
I mean, really so close. Midwest Cast is going to be in Tampa and Orlando September 18th and 19th. Buy tickets, Florida.
oh yeah.
Go to them.
And then when does the
And then
West Coast start?
West Coast starts September 24th in Seattle at the Triple Door, which is like a lovely venue.
So exciting.
Beautiful. So Seattle, go support those ladies. Have a night out. And then Midwest is in Dayton on the 24th. Dayton on the 25th, and then Toledo on the 26th.
We love Ohio.
I know. Ohio, we're coming for you hard. And then October 1st is Pittsburgh, finally.
Listen, if you have the slightest inkling of like, but it's not Shayna and Tracy, trust us.
Please
Support us. Please go see these shows. These girls are working so hard and they're bringing their own thing.
Oh my gosh, they're
and
so talented.
they're so talented.
Freaking funny.
You're going to have the best time. Plus, we have all this new merch. We have
Yes.
Mom's Night Out t-shirts now that you can like grab your group of breeder friends and
be twinsies.
Or just get the same koozie for you all.
Or koozie twinsies.
Koozie twinsies. Shirzies.
And we
For Shirzies.
for Shirzies twinsies.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
This has to end.
Yeah, we've got lots of new merch. We've got pop sockets.
Oh yeah. Pop sockets.
I'm looking at mine, and Evie just this morning she goes, "Mom, Band of Mothers is the bomb,"
Oh yeah.
and she got it. And she's
Yeah.
8. So
So
y'all are the
cute.
bomb. That's the whole thing.
You are.
Bomb.com. I tried to buy that URL, but someone took it. Anyway, go see shows. Buy tickets. They're still available, but they're going fast. And
We'll see you
see
next
ya.
week.
Yeah.
We'll talk at you next week.
Tell us your types.